Eating clean is not deprivation. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. How about a quick reminder, if you would please click like down below, it would be greatly appreciated. If you have not subscribed or followed me yet, please do so. And drop me a comment down below. All right, I'm saying this as someone who, this is what I do at 48. When I was 19, 20 years old, I was like 320 pounds, out of shape. I've been through all this, guys. I've been through all this. I've had problems with my own food addiction and binge eating. And here's the thing. When you approach this from the mindset of, oh, I'm depriving myself, this is a problem for a number of reasons. One, it's creating the concept of you're depriving instead of nourishing. You're also not looking at, hey, can I make all these really healthy, clean foods taste better? And will my taste buds adapt? And I think what people forget in this context is because there's also the cultural push around you that other people are going to influence you socially, because everyone is basically addicted to hyperpalatable junk. But I think the first two things to think about with that are, one, we are dealing with food addiction. Two, we're dealing with, since we eat so much hyperpalatable stuff, our taste buds are desensitized. Okay, and that is not a permanent situation. So that is something that people have to think about with this when they start thinking of, I can't live without this, I can't live without that. And another reason the whole flexible dieting thing is so popular, but it doesn't work with people who've been morbidly obese very well. It works for people who have some appetite control and moderate and have always been reasonably thin. They're the ones who get away with that approach a lot easier. But for people who've had real food issues, even that doesn't work that well, because it also doesn't ever allow the taste buds to resensitize. So something to think about, number one, your taste buds change every 21 days, and it will change continually over that time. So meaning, if you don't eat any of the hyperpalatable stuff for 3 weeks, your sense of taste is going to completely change. The same thing, like it's like when you see smokers, when they quit smoking, you're like, oh my God, food tastes different. Okay, the same thing, their taste buds have been impacted by that, and eventually they start to restore and resensitize. So the problem is, if you've spent 20 years bombarding your taste buds with tons and tons and tons of sweets and oily foods, where we're either mixing tons of salt with tons of fat and oils, or tons of fat with tons of sugar, like you have those three taste buds, right, that are really critical. And if you're hammering two of them really hard at the same time, it creates hyperpalatability. It also desensitizes the taste buds. So what ends up happening is you lose the ability to taste sweet. You taste the ability to taste a little amount of fat in anything if you're used to the grease all the time. Same thing with the salt. If you hammer too much salt all the time, you lose the ability to taste salt. So when these things are then back down to normal levels, all of a sudden the food is bland and boring. But it's not that the food is bland and boring. Had that been the only thing you'd ever had, like if you had never had anything sweet in your life and you tried to bite into a modern strawberry, you do realize it would be like biting into like a super sweet piece of cake that's almost overwhelming. Like you would be actually overwhelmed by it because your taste buds for sweet would be extremely sensitive. It would be too much. And as far as something like a soda, right? You try to drink that. If you had had minimal exposure to really sweet foods, you wouldn't be able to handle it. You would almost want to spit it out. It would be like, oh my God, what did I just hit? Because it would be overwhelming. And so keep that in mind with the context. Your taste buds resensitize. Okay, so the longer you eat cleaner, the more that certain foods taste better and better and better, because you can actually taste them again. And you realize, oh my God, an apple is actually really sweet. Milk is actually really, really sweet. And most people don't know that because they've eaten all this other stuff. They don't realize that normally, if you have sensitive taste buds, a glass of milk is almost as sweet as soda tastes to you now. Understand? So the same thing as far as even the savory, oh, I really enjoy all this fatty stuff, because that is what's happening with even a lot of your treats and junk food. There's sugar and fat. Then if you haven't had access to a lot of fat, you cut it back, then all of a sudden a steak, you're like, oh my God, cut a steak starts tasting pretty seriously intense. Okay, so put that in mind. Number two, there's an addiction, right? We have all this hyperpalatability. with a high calorie density, it creates addiction to these foods. And so, yes, the idea of not getting your drug of choice does sound really terrible. And in fact, everyone else is kind of addicted to these things too. So then when you try to quit, they'll be like, oh, how do you do that here? And they'll try to offer it to you. Just like the really serious alcoholics, when you try to quit drinking, you guys see what happens sometimes? They don't like it. And they're going to try to offer it to you. So it's the same thing. And that's the thing that you have to think about, is to figure out how you're going to deal with the cultural temptation. But yes, we are dealing with food addictions, and we're also dealing with desensitized taste buds. So if you walk into trying to eat clean and healthy, and you understand that that's what it is, you're not depriving anything. That's like saying, oh man, I'm a drug addict and I'm going to deprive myself of cocaine. Well, that might feel like you're depriving yourself, but you're really not. And what you ultimately find is that over time, healthier foods that have good flavor are going to start to be able to replace a lot of those treats and things. You'll find that over time that is the case. And I mean, worst case, that's where the artificial sweeteners come in. And some people get silly about that, but sorry, the data is overwhelming. Artificial sweeteners are 1,000,000 times better than refined sugars of any type. So by far the lesser of two evils. This is not even debatable at this point. But again, that's something that people use as an intermediate too, very successfully in getting in shape and in their weight loss. Okay, very successful. It's a very viable strategy. Tons of people use it. I used it. So those are options, but a lot of it comes down to stepping back and saying, what mindset am I taking? If you walk into the mindset of I'm depriving myself instead of, no, I'm going to treat my body better, I'm going to nourish my body better, and I'm going to learn to adapt, and my taste buds are going to adapt, and I'm going to get unaddicted to all the junk. Okay, it helps, because now you're no longer looking at taking anything away. You're like, I'm going to treat my body better. And your mind will follow, because again, all the garbage impacts you mentally, emotionally. That is not my opinion. That is what the data shows with our gut, the way it affects neurotransmitters, gut health, all the garbage we eat. It affects your mental health at the chemical level. Okay. Also the reduced insulin sensitivity, all that. Yeah, it even affects cognition, memory, brain function. Okay. Healthy body, healthy mind. So again, in the context of looking at this stuff, when you step back and understand the context and quit approaching it as I'm depriving myself, I'm doing it without it, instead say, hey, I'm going to treat my body better. I want to do better for myself. It's a different approach. It's a different thought process. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.